This is Chris Wade with the South Carolina Public Safety Chaplains Association. Today we're getting to know some of the chaplains in our state, and we're with Chaplain Steven Bell. What public safety agency do you work with, and how long have you been there?
So currently I serve as a police chaplain for the town of Bluffton. I've currently been in that position for about 3 years. It's very different than some of the things I've done in the past, but I absolutely love the opportunities that I get to do there in the town of Bluffton.
And what kind of things do you like about being a chaplain there?
Yeah. One of my passions is just people. I love people. I love talking to people, being with people. So being a chaplain for the police department, obviously I'm getting to love on our officers who are serving our community and sacrificing spending time with their families to protect us and be there for us as a community. So I love being able to serve them in that way.
Cool. What was your faith tradition growing up?
Growing up, I grew up in a Christian home, pretty normal Southern Christian, church every Sunday, church every Wednesday. But it was a pretty regular thing for me to be a part of a regular worship service on a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us about your family.
Yeah.
Your family's expanding here.
It is expanding very soon. So my wife's name is Amanda. Her and I have been married for 8 years this year. And we are expecting a little girl who should arrive any day. So her due date's technically on the 3rd of February, but we think she'll be here before then.
Okay.
So, anytime. But yeah, my wife and I met right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, working with a mission organization up there. Not long after we got married in 2012, we moved and served as missionaries overseas in Argentina for quite a while and worked with the church and the city there.
Which city?
We were in a city called Cipolletti. It's by plane about 2.5 hours from Buenos Aires. By car, it's about 16 hours. So.
Oh, jeez.
A little bit of a different, highways for things are a little bit different in South America, so it takes a lot longer to get places. But we loved it there, and then we were there for a little while. We moved to the Low Country in South Carolina.
What brought you back? What brought you back to the Carolinas?
States, yeah. So we were serving there in Argentina, and it took us. Actually, we wanted to be there forever. We would stay there as long as they let us. However, the country was doing a renewal of visas, and our visas was one they decided not to renew, so that brought us back to the States.
Okay.
And we came to the Low Country area to be a part of the church that we're here and I serve at now.
And which church is that?
We're at Low Country Community Church, which is an incredible church. It's just non-denominational, come from whatever walk of life you're at, and we're here to love you and share the light of Jesus with you.
And that is located?
It's located in Bluffton, South Carolina. You may have never heard of Bluffton, but it's a town that you cross into before you go to Hilton Head Island, and about 5 miles from Hilton Head Island and about 10 miles from Savannah, Georgia. So.
Okay. So it's way down south.
It is way down in the Low Country.
Okay. And actually, we're here today.
This is where I should have ding.
That from the Peanut Gallery is Chaplain Dave DiDonato over there. You may or not be able to hear that. So, are you involved in any other ministries?
Yeah, so my current job is I serve as the pastor of adult ministries at Low Country Community Church. So I serve there full time, and I also serve 24/7 at the police department. So I'm nonstop, but like I said, I love people, and I love just being able to be there when people need me.
Okay, and this is going to be very interesting being a new dad.
Yeah.
With the whole aspect of being available 24/7 and being involved with a very growing church here.
For sure. Yeah, when the Lord calls us to do things, we trust that He's going to provide a way for us to do those. So we're in a season where it's going to be all new things for us, but we know that there's nothing that's too big for us to handle.
Yeah. How did you get involved in chaplaincy?
Yeah, so actually the lead pastor at the church that I serve at, he is a chaplain for our local fire department. And he was just talking to me and sharing some things that he had the opportunity to do, and he heard from a friend of his that the police department was looking for some chaplains, and that he thought that I would be just a good fit because he knew me, he knew what my passions were and how I just like to serve. So I just went and connected with their lead chaplain there. I met with the police chief and just kind of learned a little bit about it. Spent about 6 months in an apprenticeship just to see if this is something that I would even want to do. And it wasn't long after I began that apprenticeship that I learned that this is something that I love. I love just the opportunity to serve those who are serving nonstop.
Okay. So that would go to one of the questions following, but do you have any background in public safety beyond chaplaincy?
Not really very much.
Any family members in public safety?
No, none at all. I've never had anyone in my immediate family that has served as police officer, firefighter, anything like that. But like I said, there's just something about the people who are serving us to be able to give back to them, and whatever that looks like. It just really is a niche that I love to be able to serve in.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges that you see about being a chaplain?
Sure. So one of the, I would say one of the biggest challenges is probably, as a chaplain, you're on call 24/7. Sometimes you rotate shifts and who's on call and things like that, but the way our particular department works is we're on call and we kind of share different calls that we go to, and certain ones of us respond to these calls versus other calls. So just being ready to go at any point in time is definitely a hard thing to be prepared for, especially for me not being or really experienced in the realm of first responders and not having any family to see that, but to know that you just need to be ready to respond in whatever that looks like. So that's definitely a hard piece. But like I said, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and knowing that you can be a light for someone, and whenever they're maybe in some of the darkest places, you're able to be there for them in that time.
What are some of the tough calls that you find?
A lot of the calls that I respond to are death notifications. I do a lot of that. We respond to a lot of casualties in our area. We live in an area where there's touring. It's touring season basically all year round. So unfortunately, we do experience some of those casualties more often. So we respond, and when we respond to those scenes, we're there for our officers, but we're also there for the community. So we're able to provide support for both of those situations while we're on scene.
So are you actually doing the death notification, or is somebody else doing that?
It just depends. From time to time, we actually have to deliver the death notifications, and then other times the officers will deliver those, or coroners, however that particular thing plays out. But a lot of times we're there for that.
Okay. So if you were asked by someone who felt called to go into chaplain ministry, how would you direct them?
Sure. I would say that my on path was incredible for me. It allowed me to be open to what actually happens as a chaplain. So I would encourage you, if you are considering chaplaincy in whatever arena of public safety area that you're looking at, I would encourage you to find a chaplain, sit down and talk with them, let them share with you what chaplaincy really looks like. We all know that we can take a look and read things online, and looking at things on paper can make them look a lot better than they are sometimes, or it can make them look a lot worse. But sitting down and hearing the heart of the people who are actually serving as chaplains can make all of the difference. So find a chaplain and talk to them. There's chaplains all over the place.
So what desires do you have about being a chaplain, and where do you want to go with this ministry?
Sure. So as a chaplain, I am very passionate about training and education.
Okay.
I am all about community care, and the way that we can care for our community is by educating them. We need to have officers and chaplains who are educated to know how to make sure our community is aware of things that are causing accidents where deaths occur. So, being a hands-free driver, distracted driving, keeping things like that. So bringing education to the forefront is a huge thing for us, and a huge passion of mine to make sure, that this is something that things can be avoided, and a lot of times we don't know about how we can avoid those situations. So I like to be able to be the person that can provide some of that training.
Okay, in the fire service, we call it community risk reduction.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you call it here,
Same.
but so you're getting out to some of these events that the police department does and
For sure.
helping them with their community outreach?
100%. We do all kinds of things. We do like what we call breakfast with cops, all kinds of different things throughout the community, and our chaplains are always a part of what's happening there, because the chaplains can provide a sense of relief in some situations where people feel safer talking to a chaplain versus talking to a police officer, and different things like that. So we are here just to be able to be a bridge in whatever way that we can be. So yeah, we're always out in the community. We're also always at the police department checking in on our officers, because obviously they're the ones that we're here to serve first and foremost.
You were saying earlier about training. What kind of background, what kind of training do you have?
Sure. So I have a doctorate in community care,
Okay.
focusing in traumology. So just dealing with trauma, and that is what my educational background is. However, I am also certified crisis intervention stress management as well. So a part of the training that I help implement at our police department is getting some what we call SISM teams together to be able to be prepared to deploy out in those critical incident and crisis incident stress management cases. So we want to be prepared and ready to go when things like that happen. So we are preparing a team where we have some people who have already been through the training, chaplains and officers, but we're getting prepared and getting more out to be ready to be able to be there for our community when they need us the most.
Okay. One last question here as I'm thinking about this. Okay, you're a local pastor,
Yeah.
a local church, but you're also a chaplain. What do you see as the differences in that, and what do you see as similarities?
Sure. So they're obviously very different in the things that we do. However, one of the biggest similarities is, as a pastor, you're called to shepherd your flock. As a chaplain, you're also called to shepherd your flock. You're called to be there and guide them and support them. As a chaplain, we're there and we're that shepherd and that backbone for our officers. However, another big piece for that is at the church that I'm at, where we live in a small town. Although it's growing and it's actually a big town, it still has that small town feel. So you see people that are in your church a lot of times when you're on scenes and things like that as a chaplain. So a big piece in similarity is we are getting to care for not only the people of our church that we care for as pastors, and we're getting to care for them as chaplains as well, but we're getting to care and support for our local law enforcement.
Do the people, when they're from your church, when they're on scene like that, how do they treat you? Because you're wearing two different hats.
Sure. So I will say, one of the very first calls that I went out on years ago, it was a car accident, and one of the parishioners of our church, he saw me standing on the side of the road as I was there as a chaplain. So his response was, "Oh, there's my pastor." So he pulls over his car and he gets out and checks. So I see him and I know what he's thinking. "Oh no, my pastor just got in a wreck. Let me see if I can help him." So I have to stop what I'm doing in that moment and say, "Hey, I love you. I am okay, but I am here serving our community as a chaplain, serving our police as a chaplain." So sometimes there are hiccups and there's those things that can cause us to be a little bit more distracted from what we're at and what we're there for. But however, times when the community that we're in, if an incident does occur, they do often associate us as pastors when we're on call as a chaplain. That's not always the case, but being in the South, that's a pretty normal thing. Especially a death notification, someone's like, "Oh, we call our pastor. Let's get our pastor." It's the first call we hear a lot of times. So they do ask us to kind of step into that role sometimes. That's not always the case, but being in the South, that is what we see from time to time.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time, and
Absolutely.
thank you for us getting to know you, and thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.